Meadowbrook Hall and all its treasures belong to Oakland University, Rochester, Michigan. The legacy of a great and gracious lady, patron and benefactor of the university. Our home says many things about us, and this is good. For while we came to tell the story of one of the great homes of America, we now must do more than this. We must tell the story of Matilda R. Wilson.
Well, we've had for 2 or 3 years, we had the scholarship ball for the Scholarship Fund of Oakland University. They've been in the summertime. The conferences were held in this room when they were making their plans and making a study of the type of a university they wanted to develop. That was done by conferences and symposiums held here in Meadowbrook Hall.
Would this be an appropriate time for you to say a few words reflecting your thoughts on Oakland University?
Well, of course, I think that's a marvelous institution that it's grown into in a short period of time. The community interest has been marvelous. The faculty, the students have all, to me, been a remarkably interesting and inspiring experience.
One of the first events that we attended on campus was to go to Meadowbrook Hall and to meet Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, and then to have dinner out in the garden, which was very impressive for all of us who were coming from all over suburbia of Detroit. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson were so kind to us, and we were able to have many parties at their Meadowbrook Hall.
Phil Williams and Bill Davies and I were playing cards in the sunroom, and Matilda comes along. It's now about 10 o'clock, and she says, "Boys, what are you playing?" Well, we were playing a game that maybe had a swear word at the end, and somebody was thought fast and said, "We're playing Oh Heck," and she said, "Can I join you?" And lo and behold, she played cards with us for over 2 hours, and that was an exciting time, and we all got to know Mrs. Wilson. Mrs. Wilson's birthday party, and that was an exciting time too. It was the first time that I'd ever danced to an orchestra, first time I'd ever had wine, and don't ask me how we got the wine, but we had wine, and it was just neat being there.
We had a event called the Book Push, the Great Book Push, and we put all the carts, all the books on book carts, and a whole bunch of us pushed the books up the hill to the library.
We used to have road rallies, and of course at that time Rochester was really out in the country, and so we devised these rallies over roads that most people had never heard of, let alone ever traveled on. So at the end of the rally, it was always a question, do we go find the lost people or let them find their own way back? But the best car always was Louis Claffey's. Louis had a old Volkswagen. The floorboard was rusted out, which he had replaced with plywood, and the passenger seat was a wood crate that he screwed to the plywood floor.
The professors were all very kind to us. They insisted that we call them by their first names, which was very difficult for most of us. So we ended up calling them Mr. or Mrs.
Another person I will always remember is I don't know his name. He taught India, and he always came running into his classroom late. He always wore an aviator cap that had the flaps down on the side. And I can remember when he invited us over to his house. That was something the professors often did at that time. After all, that was the Harvard of the Midwest. And we all sat down to an Indian dish that he had prepared. None of us could eat the food. We liked the food, but it was so spicy hot. He was spending more time, giving us milk and water than eating the food. One story I'll always remember is arriving at school. Again, there were only the two buildings, but South Foundation had what we called the fishbowl on it. And we arrived there early in the morning, and everyone was gathered around the fishbowl, and we couldn't figure out why. And then we looked up, and someone had put I think it was a 3-wheel Isetta car on top of the roof, and we're trying to figure out who did it and also how to get off. It was a big secret on campus for a long time, although I think we all figured out who did it ultimately.
Someone decided to have a hootenanny in the intramural building. Well, Holly Lepley was just absolutely aghast that people were going to walk on his brand new gym floor in street shoes. So he handed out paper bags to everybody as they went in. And of course, the musicians thought this was just fantastic. All these people with these noisy paper bags putting their shoes into them and making all this noise while they're trying to play music.